everybody, and welcome to Bible class. It's my pleasure one more time to invite you to open your Bibles to the first book, Genesis chapter 41, where we will read together in just a few moments. It's been great for me to walk through this first book of the Bible as a book of beginnings with you. And tonight is our last lesson. I want to pick back up with you in Genesis 41, verse 57, where we left off last Wednesday evening. If you remember, there is a great famine that has come over all the earth. And so many people are coming from all over the place to Egypt that has been well prepared in accordance with God's plan through the work of this young man named Joseph. The earth is coming to Egypt to buy grain. The famine is severe over all the earth. And who else is being affected by this famine? Well, Jacob and Jacob's other sons up here in the land of Canaan. And so in Genesis 42, Jacob sends 10 of his sons down to Egypt to buy grain. They appear before Joseph, and you know what they do? They bow down before him. Do you remember those two dreams that Joseph had as a much younger man? We talked about them last Wednesday from Genesis 37, where the sheaves of his brothers bow down before him, and even the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bow down. Here are Joseph's brothers bowing down before him. He recognizes them, they don't recognize him. And so he tests them in a variety of ways that we might talk together about a little more deeply in our classes. But I want you to notice Genesis 42. Notice how they talk amongst themselves, not realizing that Joseph can understand what they're saying. In verse 21 of Genesis 42, in truth, they say to one another, we are guilty concerning our brother. They're talking about Joseph. In that we saw the distress of his soul when he begged us, and we did not listen. That is why this distress has come upon us. Reuben, the oldest, who had talked them out of taking Joseph's life, says, did I not tell you not to sin against the boy? But you did not listen. So now there comes a reckoning for his blood. Joseph, as he's testing these brothers, he binds Simeon, the second oldest one, and sends the other 9 brothers back to Canaan with orders to bring their youngest brother, Benjamin, right? Bring him back in order to prove to me, Joseph says, that you are not spies. Those brothers go back up, they tell their father Jacob, and at first Jacob says, no way. I've already lost Joseph. Simeon hasn't come back with you. There's no way I'm sending Benjamin. Time passes, but the famine doesn't pass. And eventually, Dad, Jacob, gives in and says to go back down. So once again, these brothers are before Joseph. Now they are all together. Simeon is brought out. Benjamin is there. And Joseph continues testing these brothers. He even makes it look like he's going to take Benjamin's life. I want you to listen in Genesis 44. Can you find verses 33 and 34? Listen to Judah, the fourth oldest brother, listen to his heartfelt plea, not knowing who this governor in Egypt really is. Verse 33, now therefore, please let your servant remain instead of the boy as a servant to my Lord. Let Benjamin go, and I'll stay here. Let the boy go back with his brothers. For how can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? I fear to see the evil that would find my father. These brothers, in many ways, have grown up. It's Judah now who says, you can take my life. Don't take Benjamin. Let him go home. I'll stay here. And at this point, Joseph can no longer control himself. He makes himself known to his brothers. I am Joseph. And his first question is my father still alive? Verse 3 of Genesis 45 tells us that his brothers, they couldn't even answer him. They are dismayed at his presence. Their first thought is, oh no, what have we done? But listen there in Genesis 45, beginning in verse 7, to the way Joseph talks to his brothers. Now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. Listen to this. For God sent me before you to preserve life. For the famine has been in the land these 2 years, and there are yet 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to keep alive for you many survivors. The brothers can't believe it. They can't believe that Joseph is alive. They can't believe that he wouldn't take revenge on them. They go up according to Joseph's commands. They get their father. They get their families. They come down to Egypt, and Joseph richly provides for his fathers, his brothers, their families in the land of Goshen in Egypt. In fact, we've got this great summary, Genesis 46, verse 27. All the persons of the house of Jacob who came into Egypt were 70. For the next 17 years, Israel settles in the land of Egypt. They gain possessions in it. They're fruitful. They multiply greatly. Jacob, the dad of all of these brothers, lives in the land of Egypt for 17 years. And at the age of 147, he knows he's about to die. He makes Joseph swear not to bury him in Egypt, but to carry him back to the land of Canaan. He brings Joseph's 2 sons. We were introduced to them last Wednesday, right? Joseph, while he's in Egypt, has 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. Jacob takes those 2 grandsons and richly blesses them. In fact, he elevates them to be like his own sons, even like his oldest 2 sons, Reuben and Simeon. In Genesis 49, Jacob gathers all of his sons together. Verse 1, that I may tell you what shall happen to you in days to come. And beginning in the next verse, he just goes down the line. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, all the way through the end. Verse 28, this is what their father said to them as he blessed them. blessing each with the blessing suitable to him. And when Jacob is done blessing his sons, he dies. He is gathered to his people. In the last chapter of Genesis, well, now Joseph's brothers are worried again. Maybe now he's going to take his revenge. But Joseph assures them, verse 20, as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive, as they are to this day. And so Joseph and his family stay there in Egypt. Before he dies, he talks to his brothers one more time and promises them, God will visit you and bring you up out of this land to the land that he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. That's how the book ends. But we've noticed it is a book full of beginnings. The beginning of God's revelation to mankind. The beginning of sin. The beginning of life outside of Eden. The beginning of a fresh start with humanity. The beginning of God's covenant with Abraham and his family. The beginning of that chosen family line. The beginning of some strife within that family, right? But the beginning of descendants through Jacob, the beginning of Israel, the beginning of a plan to save mankind, and now the beginning of their time in Egypt. Thank you so much for digging into that with me. I'm going to turn it over to your in-person class teacher. I hope you have a great rest of your class and a great rest of this week.